Do you ever just stare at a huge pile of
Yes.
information, especially when it's something really important, like getting ready for the SAT? It's not just the test, right? It's figuring out how to even start preparing while you're in the right place. Here on the deep dive, we try to cut through all that noise. We take complex stuff and boil it down to what you really need. Your shortcut to being properly informed. Today, we're doing a deep dive into the absolute basics of SAT prep. We're using the official source, the official SAT study guide. We're looking at Chapter 1, introducing the SAT, and that really crucial beginning part of Chapter 2, doing your best on the SAT. This guide, it's like the official roadmap. Our mission today is to make sure you really get those first key ideas, not just, glance over them.
Exactly. And it's not just about listing facts from the book. We want you to get a really clear picture of what the SAT is actually about, like its philosophy, how it's put together, the scoring, which can seem complicated, and maybe most importantly, what skills it's really testing. Plus, we'll unpack that first bit of advice the guide gives for doing well. This should help you see, I think, how the stuff you do every day in school is actually building the skills you need for this test. It makes prep feel less daunting, maybe more like part of your whole education journey.
Okay, so let's jump right in then. One of the first things the guide mentions, and honestly it feels kind of freeing, is that the SAT doesn't test. It's not going to ask you like tiny details from Hamlet or where some obscure river is. So if it's not about memorizing random facts, what is it measuring?
Yeah, that's a great starting point. What the guide really emphasizes is that the SAT checks your thinking skills and, crucially, your ability to apply what you know. It's not just a subtle difference. I mean, it changes how you should think about studying. The test is really designed to see how good you are at taking in new information, connecting it to stuff you already know, and then showing you're a skilled thinker. So that means measuring things like problem solving, communicating clearly, understanding complex relationships, skills you need everywhere, right? College, careers. It's about using your brain, not just spitting back facts you crammed.
That completely reframes it, doesn't it? It's way more than just a knowledge quiz. But okay, how do they actually create a test that can reliably measure something like thinking skills? That sounds tricky. What's the process? How's it developed?
That's a really important question, especially for a test this significant. The guide, it stresses how rigorous the development is. It's made by the College Board. They're a nonprofit, been around over 100 years, and they have something like 6,000 member schools. And they bring in experts from all sorts of fields: physics, biology, math, English, history, psychology, you name it. These experts work together, writing and reviewing every single question very carefully. Plus, they have committees of actual high school teachers and college instructors involved. They all work to make sure the questions are fair, that they test essential skills, and that they actually reflect what students learn in, solid high school classes. It's a really layered process, built for fairness and relevance.
Wow. Okay. So it's definitely not just random questions pulled out of thin air. It's really systematically designed to spot students who have those flexible thinking skills that colleges actually want. And it acts as a decent predictor for college readiness. That makes the effort students put into their regular schoolwork feel, well, more validated, I guess. Right, let's bring this down to the practical level. You've done the hard work in school, you get the philosophy behind the test, but what does it actually look like when you sit down for the SAT? How is it, structured? Let's break that down.
Absolutely. So on test day, you're looking at four main tests. Well, one's optional. The main ones everyone takes are reading, writing, and language, and math. And the guide gives really specific times and question counts. Knowing these is super important for practice and pacing. So for reading, you get 65 minutes.
65, okay.
And in that time, you have 52 questions to answer.
52, got it.
Then comes writing and language. That one's quicker, 35 minutes for 44 questions.
Okay, faster pace there.
Definitely. And for math, you get the longest chunk of time, 80 minutes.
80 minutes. For how many questions?
For 58 questions in the math section.
Yeah.
And then there's the essay. It's optional, just one prompt, and you have 50 minutes for that. So if you do take the essay, the whole thing adds up to 180 minutes, 3 hours, with 154 questions plus the essay.
And the essay is definitely optional.
Oh, yeah, absolutely optional. It's really important you check what the specific colleges or scholarship programs you're interested in require. Some want it, many don't anymore.
So check first before deciding. Good tip. Wow, hearing those numbers laid out. 65 minutes for 52 reading questions, 35 for 44 writing. That's a lot of questions and not a lot of time.
Okay.
It really highlights the time pressure, doesn't it? Understanding that structure isn't just interesting, it's like A key strategy for test day.
Exactly. Knowing what's coming helps you manage your time effectively.
I even remember practicing filling in the answer bubbles faster back in the day. Every second counts. Okay, so you survive the test. You make it through. Now the scores come out. It's not just that one big number, right?
Yeah.
People focus on the 1600, but there's more to it.
That's absolutely right. The score report you get is actually pretty detailed. It gives you a much richer understanding than just one number. First off, yes, there's the total score. That's the one everyone knows, 400 to 1600. And that total score comes from adding up two section scores, one for evidence-based reading and writing and one for math.
Okay, wait. Evidence-based reading and writing, so that combines two tests.
Exactly. The reading test and the writing and language test performances are combined into that one evidence-based reading and writing section score. Both that section and the math section are scored on a scale of 200 to 800.
200 to 800 each, adding up to the 1600 max. Got it.
Right. But then you also get scores for the individual tests themselves, reading, writing, and language, and math. These are on a smaller scale, 10 to 40.
10 to 40 for each test.
Okay. And it gets even more granular. You get cross-test scores, also 10 to 40. These measure how well you analyze information in history, social studies contexts, and in science contexts.
Across the different sections.
Yeah, these scores pull questions from reading, writing, and language and math that fall into those subject areas. So it shows how you apply skills in those specific academic fields. Pretty neat, actually.
That is interesting. It shows application across disciplines. So beyond just pass-fail, what can you really learn from all these different scores? Especially the sub-scores you mentioned, if you wanted.
Yes, the sub-scores. This is where it gets really helpful for targeted studying. These are on a 1 to 15 scale. They give you really specific feedback. For instance, in writing and language, you'll see sub-scores for things like expression of ideas.
What does that cover?
That looks at, how well you develop your topic, organize your writing, use language effectively for rhetoric, and then there's standard English conventions.
Grammar and punctuation, basically.
Exactly. Sentence structure, usage, punctuation. For math, you get subscores like heart of algebra, that's your linear equations, systems, functions, and problem solving and data analysis, which is about quantitative reasoning, interpreting graphs and data. Also, passport to advanced math, looking at more complex equations and functions needed for higher level math.
Okay, so really specific math skills.
Very specific. And there are others, too, pulled from reading and writing, like words and context, understanding vocabulary and word choice, and command of evidence.
Command of evidence.
Yeah, how well you use evidence from the passages or from graphics like charts and tables to support your answers. The bottom line is, these subscores act like a diagnostic tool. They show you exactly where your strengths and weaknesses lie so you know where to focus your prep time. The guide lists all 7 so you can really dig in.
That is an incredible level of detail. Way more than just the one big score. So if you do choose to take the essay, how does that get scored, since you said it's separate?
Right, totally separate. The essay score doesn't affect your 400, 1600 score at all. Your essay gets read by 2 different people, 2 raters. Each rater gives you a score from 1 to 4 on 3 different dimensions: reading, analysis, and writing.
Reading, analysis, writing. 1 to 4 from each rater.
Correct. So these scores are combined, meaning for each dimension you get a final score between 2 and 8. Reading checks if you understood the passage you read. Analysis looks at how well you explained the author's argument and techniques. And writing assesses, well, how skillfully you wrote your own essay response.
Okay, 3 separate scores, 2 to 8 each. Makes sense. This amount of data from the score seems super useful. So thinking bigger picture now, how can you actually use these scores and maybe other College Board resources to help you? It sounds like there's more support available than just the test itself.
Oh, absolutely. Your SAT score report, which you get online through your College Board account, it's free to set up, is packed with info. It shows your score range, for example. This acknowledges that, if you took the test again, your score might naturally vary a bit. It gives you a realistic perspective.
That's good to know. Manages expectations a bit.
Definitely. And it shows your percentiles. This tells you how you did compared to other students. Like, a 75th percentile means you scored as well as or better than 75% of test takers.
Oh, okay. Context.
Exactly. The online report also has summaries, breaks down your performance by difficulty level, suggests college majors based on your profile, and you can even see a scanned copy of your essay if you took it. It's a really valuable tool for reflection and planning.
Beyond the report itself, what other services are out there that might be helpful?
Well, the College Board offers quite a few things. For sending scores, you get 4 additional score reports sent for free if you choose the colleges within about 9 days of taking the test. There's also Score Choice. This lets you decide which test dates you want to send to colleges.
Oh, so you don't have to send a bad score.
Potentially, yes. But, and this is important, you have to check each college's policy. Some require you to send all your scores. So, score choice is great, but do your homework on college requirements first.
Good caveat. What else?
For understanding your mistakes, there are the Student Answer Verification Services, SAS and QAS. QAS is the really detailed one. You get a copy of the test questions, your answers, the correct answers, and difficulty levels. It's amazing for learning.
That sounds incredibly useful for targeted studying.
It really is. Then there's the optional Student Search Service, where colleges and scholarships can find you. And maybe most importantly, for students who need financial help, there are SAT fee waivers.
Fee waivers, what do they cover?
They give you a free test registration, maybe even 2, and also waivers for college application fees, usually up to 4. It's a critical program for making sure the SAT and college applications are accessible.
That's a fantastic range of support systems, really practical stuff. Okay, so we've covered the what of the SAT, the skills, the structure, the scoring, and the how the services around it. But where does the guide say you should actually begin preparing? It can't just be about practice tests from day one, right?
No, not at all. And this brings us back to that fundamental point from the beginning of Chapter 2, doing your best on the SAT. The core message, honestly, it's simple but really powerful. The absolute best preparation is just working hard in school, consistently.
Working hard in school, not buying a giant prep book.
Well, prep books have their place. But the guide argues the SAT is designed to measure the skills you develop over time in your high school classes. The reading, the writing, the math reasoning, it's stuff you should be learning day to day. It's not really about secret tricks. The guide's advice is super practical. Do your homework seriously. Prepare properly for your class tests. Ask questions when you don't understand. Basically, take ownership of your learning, because those core academic skills, that's what the SAT is built to measure.
So the daily grind in English, math, history, science, that is the fundamental SAT prep.
That's what the guide strongly suggests, yes. That consistent effort builds the foundation that makes specific test prep much more effective later on.
Okay, that's a really important perspective. So let's recap this deep dive. We started with the SAT's real purpose. It's about testing thinking skills, application, not just facts. Then we broke down the structure, roting, writing and language, math, the optional essay, the timing, the question counts. We got into the nitty-gritty of scoring total, section test, cross-test, and those really detailed subscores, and the separate essay scoring.
Right, and then we looked at all the support services, score reports, percentiles, score choice, QACs, fee waivers.
And finally, circle back to that foundational advice from the guide itself. Your best prep starts with engaging fully in your regular schoolwork.
Exactly. And maybe the final thought here is that understanding the SAT, really understanding it through the guide, isn't just about acing a test. It's about realizing that the skills this test measures, critical reading, analysis, clear communication, problem solving, these are the skills that will genuinely help you succeed. In college, definitely, but also in your career, just in life generally. The guide kind of subtly makes the case that the best prep for the future is just fully engaging with your learning right now.
That's a great takeaway. Think about that. Every challenging assignment, every question you ask in class, every time you really wrestle with an idea, you're actively building the skills the SAT looks for. So use this initial understanding from the official guide as your launchpad. Know that your everyday efforts really do count. We've covered those foundational first chapters thoroughly now. Thanks so much for joining us for this deep dive.